Welcome to my brain, guys. This is kind of weird. I'm not really used to like talking while I do my makeup. Who does that when they're 5 years old? And so I've been on medication before. Hi beans, today we're gonna film a get ready with me, a chatty one. I'm gonna start with some primer. This is the Milk Hydro Grip Primer from my Sephora haul. I made a little note. Basically, I want to talk about mental health. Why do I keep touching my nose? I want to talk about mental health and OCD stuff because that's been a theme of my life recently. A lot more. My foundation finally came from my Sephora sale. It's the Kosas foundation, but not the tinted oil I used to use. This one's more like a true foundation cream, which I think is a little bit better. This is kind of weird. I'm not really used to like talking while I do my makeup. But basically, if you guys are not familiar, I was diagnosed with OCD. And I didn't really think that it was like something that interfered with my life very much because, you know, I need to like hold a mirror. It didn't really interfere with my life very much, or so I thought, until I went to college and I lived with someone else for the first time. No! My battery's dying. Crisis averted, I had a backup battery. So basically, if you're not familiar with me and my channel, I feel like I used to share more about mental health stuff in the very beginning because the reason why I started my Instagram to start with was I was using it as like a therapy tool. Like it was supposed to be private, like a Finsta, but obviously that's not the case anymore. And then, you know, over time I kind of just felt like sometimes sharing about mental health, like it's not that it's always negative, it's just sometimes I'm like, I don't want to talk about tough things all the time. And sometimes I feel like talking about mental health can kind of, like a lot of people can relate, but sometimes I feel like I get sucked into this like, not a negative hole, but it's just like, I guess I just always don't want to think about it. Sometimes I just want to like write a silly emoji caption, you know? So anyway, it's been a while because I feel like then I lost practice being comfortable talking about it, and I didn't really have anything to share that was like an update because I think that, I don't know, I just was not really aware of a lot of the ways that it was affecting me now. I've had OCD probably since before I was 7, but that was when I was diagnosed. And then, actually no, sorry, I was diagnosed when I was like 10, 11, but I remember it being an issue when I was really young and we lived in Taiwan, and that's kind of when I first noticed it. But I would always be afraid to watch the news because it would play into a lot of my worries about, or intrusive thoughts about like safety. Even though that's never really been an issue for me. It's not like I've experienced like a break-in or anything, but I remember I'd be like 6 and I would hear on the news about a break-in, and then I would religiously count the number of ways that somebody could break into the house. And I still do that now. Like when I moved to LA, I was like, wow, I could be the first to die in the house. Whereas in New York, there's like safety in numbers. Like living in an apartment building, there's the doorman, there's the elevator, there's so many apartments to choose from. Just like, that's kind of normal to me. That's like how I think, for no reason at all. Like I said, it's not like I've ever experienced like a break-in, knock on wood. We're gonna put on this Milk liquid or gel bronzer, which I really like, by the way. And I use this brush. I don't know if you're supposed to use this brush, but I do. So I feel like safety is a really big, oops, what am I doing? Safety is a really big thing for a lot of people with OCD. Obviously organization and cleanliness, but it's like weird. Like I can be messy sometimes. It's more just about things being a particular way, and it's all pretty irrational. Like it's not like I have a reason for wanting something to be a certain way. It just feels like something bad is gonna happen if, like, I don't know, a shoe is facing the wrong direction. It's really hard to describe because I think people with OCD are also aware that a lot of these things are not rational thoughts. Like, you know, we can identify that, and it makes it so much harder to explain to people. And so when you're living with someone, I feel like there's a lot of tension because, first of all, living with someone, period, is really hard. Like if you're not a confrontational person, it's difficult to talk about things like cleaning up or like dishes or whatever. And I definitely had that issue when I had my first roommate. Like we had an ant issue, and it was really hard for me to describe that like ants were debilitating to me because I would miss classes and exams because I was convinced that there were still ants coming and I would lose track of time cleaning the floor. Obviously I knew that wasn't rational, but it's like hard for someone to understand. And then it's also easy for me to kind of downplay my needs because I can also recognize that they're not normal per se. We're gonna powder with the Ilia powder. And so basically I always thought that that was what OCD was largely, just like organization, rituals, like this irrational need for things to be a certain way, and like feeling distraught when it's not. And I guess more recently I realized that it's been playing a lot more into just like my general anxiety and like interpersonal experiences a lot more than I've ever experienced it before. Like, I don't know if it came from COVID, but something got a little bit worse, and I guess I didn't realize that a lot of it was rooted in that, so it made it difficult for me to understand why it was happening. Like, I was just super frustrated, so I didn't even really know how to describe it, and therefore I didn't have anything to say about it. And so yeah, we are bronzing now. So basically over the last maybe like, I don't know, 6 months, I feel like I've been really withdrawn from like friends, especially because, you know, it's kind of like when you talk to a friend and you do the whole thing where you're like, how's life? And then you exchange back and forth and you update each other. And I feel like I would always say the same thing. Like, I'd just be like, I feel really stressed all the time and I don't know why. I feel really tired, but I sleep more than I've ever slept before, and it just like doesn't make sense. And I feel like anxious about nothing, and it's really frustrating. And I didn't really have any updates on that, so I just didn't really want to talk about it anymore, because I guess I like to be able to have some kind of positive takeaway or like understanding of what's going on if I'm gonna share. And same thing on like YouTube. I just didn't really have any updates for you guys because I think I didn't even have the words to like describe how I was feeling basically. But I guess I could sum it up as a lot of anxiety that would kind of make me pissed or like irritated about the fact that I could not pinpoint what was causing it, and also had no solution. I think part of me is really used to always coming up with some kind of like positive outcome or learning or takeaway from shitty experiences, and that being the reason to share about negative experiences online. Like, I don't like to just share something negative and then just be like, this happened, it sucks, like life sucks, you know? I just kind of always want to be positive. Like, when I was younger, I always wanted to be more of like a positive person, and I don't know, I just try to put out better energy, I guess, because I feel like part of it is putting it out there, and then eventually like your thoughts turn into the things you say, turn to your thoughts, turn into your actions, and then therefore your mood and your beliefs. But I just didn't have any of that because I didn't have the understanding. And how I found out that a lot of this was like related to OCD was actually through memes. For brow gel, we're doing the Air Brow by Kosas. The issue for me was that a lot of the behaviors or like things that I was experiencing, like being a little bit more withdrawn from people and like not wanting to be as open as I usually am, came from just like feeling very overwhelmed by intrusive thoughts, and then like knowing that it was so ridiculous that even talking to someone about it like didn't really make sense to me, because it's like it sounded ridiculous in my head already, and then expressing that to someone was very, I mean, it's like kind of embarrassing, you know, because you know it's not rational, but you can't help it, and it just feels like so real. And it just really consumes your mind. Like, it's hard to be productive, it's hard to think about anything else. And I also hate meditating for that reason, because the quieter it is or the less busy I am, the more I can listen to my mind, which is probably kind of unhealthy, but you know, it's really just the truth. And I feel like that's part of also why I like to be so busy all the time. Like, I really thrive on being extremely busy and like packing my schedule, and I don't really like having a lot of time to sit still. And when I do, I feel like, I don't know, like kind of not like depressed, but like I just don't like it. So when it's quiet, like I remember when I was younger and we would travel and we'd go somewhere really quiet, like a beach town or something with my family, and then it would be like nighttime where all the activity's over, because you know, you're not really on the beach at night. I would feel just like really uncomfortable. You know, I would like tell my mom, I was like, I think I'm like sad. Like, I don't know what the deal is. But I think now I kind of understand that it's like sitting with your thoughts is deeply uncomfortable if you don't like the thoughts that you're having. And so I've been on medication before, but there isn't really any specific medication for OCD specifically. We're using this Tower 28 blush. I just keep getting like distracted by all these cuts, but it's fine. Tower 28 brush, and then this same brush I use for my bronzer, which is probably not a good idea, but it's fine. I've been on medication before, but I just feel like it just made me really drowsy. It wasn't all that helpful, and then I eventually stopped taking it once I got out of high school, because I thought that the environment was like a big part of the issue. But I think it's kind of tricky, because like you can't really recover from OCD, if you know what I mean. Like, it's kind of just something that you have to maintain. It's like being an anxious person, you can't cure that, you just kind of have to find ways to manage. And a lot of the tools that one of my therapists, my first ever therapist, helped me or like taught me, I still use today, which has been helpful. But obviously things have kind of evolved, and I realized that a lot more of my patterns, especially interpersonally, I don't have the tools for. As much as I feel like I'm comfortable talking about mental health and like being very open, for some reason I just haven't been feeling that way recently. I am brushing my brows now. I think I did a really bad job with my brows today, but we're just gonna keep going. Anyway, I think a lot of what I described on like my Instagram stories a couple weeks ago was just like feeling very stuck in my own head, so much so that like it's hard for me to be present. And it's frustrating because I know I am the person getting in my own way, you know, but it is really sometimes paralyzing when you just like overthink. And then at a certain point it becomes difficult to understand like what is a real thought and what is just like an intrusive recurring thought, you know? Imagine hearing something over and over and over. It's like eventually you start to kind of feel like, oh, I guess this is real. We're gonna use this lip pencil, which I've been really liking. I think on top of everything though, it's really frustrating to feel like you're being a bad friend, a bad like family member, a bad partner, a bad anything. Just like not being there for other people because you're going through, I don't know if they're like going through something. It's more just like you're trying to figure out what's up with your brain, and then you don't really have the space to be there 100% for someone else. And so then you kind of push people away, which is probably one of the worst things you could do, right? In a moment like that. But I think it can be really isolating when you feel like what you're going through is kind of like embarrassing or shameful. And I think a lot of it maybe has to do with like being Asian too, because we don't really talk a lot about mental health, especially with like the older generations of Asians. Like if you were to be like, I have OCD, they'd probably be like, what is that? Or like depression is not a thing, you know? Basically just a lot of like DIY mentality, which is not always possible when you're going through mental health stuff. Like you sometimes need professional help, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like it could literally be a couple sessions that provides you the tools that you could use for life. So anyway, one of the questions that I was getting a lot was like, have I ever done therapy? Yeah, I've done therapy like 3 separate occasions, and I kind of took a break, and then now I am again. But I really want to work with someone who is, I guess, like more of a specialist with OCD, because I realized that unless you are working with someone or talking to someone that has OCD, it's really difficult for them to understand. No matter how professional you are, I just think that sometimes having experienced the same thing, you can understand a lot better. So how it's been manifesting for me lately is, and it also doesn't help that my personality type is definitely like a little bit anxious and like an insecure attachment, I guess you could say. And just coupled with like intrusive thoughts, I think what really helps me is a lot of reassurance. But at a certain point, that's like overwhelming for other people, and it needs to be something that I can self-regulate as well. Because in instances like where I am alone, or if we're in a quiet beach town, so specific, and it's like nighttime and I feel that way and there is no one to talk to, like that's on me, and it can be really difficult. That is kind of like the gist of what's been going on. And I think a big struggle that a lot of people with OCD experience is like, if something is not going the right way, you could be a perfectionist to the point where if it's not working out the way you envisioned or the way like you feel it needs to be, like you just won't do it at all. Or if you feel like you can't do it perfectly, like you just will not even try. The thought of it is just like so, I don't know, unbearable, unpleasant, and wrong, and like it feels physically wrong. It's really hard to describe. But yeah, just a lot of like anxiety stuff, I guess. And OCD is considered an anxiety disorder. And so I don't know, I think anxiety can just be really crippling. Like a lot of people don't realize it can affect you in so many more ways than just feeling like nervous. Like for me, sometimes it's like a physical manifestation. Like I'll get really cold and my body cannot get warm again. By the way, I'm using this like little freckle stick again. Hello, focus on the freckle stick. Yeah, like my body will get extremely cold and then I can't regulate and I start to like shake or shiver. And the only thing I can really do in those moments is to, I guess, respond to it in a physical way too. So like cold showers really help me, or like hot baths. Obviously if I had control over my mind more, then I could shut it down, but that's not always possible. And a lot of it comes from just like staying on top of things like sleep and managing like my workload, and just, I think it's like managing a disease. Like you have to be on top of your nutrition, your sleep, everything, so that the foundation is better and you're less prone to whatever you're dealing with. I feel like I'm getting distracted, so I'll just talk to you real quick. Basically, I feel like I've been a lot more withdrawn and I don't feel comfortable opening up because I haven't figured it out yet fully, you know? And so I just get tired of like feeling the same way over and over in my head and thinking the same shit over and over in my head. Like it's really just unpleasant for me, and I don't want to be like always complaining about something, if that makes sense. Like I just kind of felt like, why am I always anxious about something? Why is something always kind of like stressing me out? And I hated to be that person. Like I've always just wanted to be a positive person. Like I had this Lyft driver recently, and she used to work for the Amazon fulfillment team, like delivering Prime. And she was like the most positive person I ever encountered at 3 a.m. in my Lyft ride. And I was like, I want to be like that type of person. But I've always thought that it's not possible for me because naturally I've always been more of like this depressed, anxious type of person. I do feel like it's possible, you know, but it can just be sometimes a little bit of a mind fuck when you're trying so hard to be positive and that's not how you really feel inside. It's like toxic positivity and it's a lie, it's fake. That doesn't help you. Like there is a degree of like fake it till you make it, but at a certain point you have to also be real with how you actually feel. Ooh, bars. Anyways, I would like to work on being less dependent on keeping myself so busy because that's like a band-aid. I can only keep myself so distracted and I do physically get worn down sometimes from like loading up my schedule, but it's obviously easier than sitting in stillness and like listening to the shit in my head, you know? But that is not sustainable. I don't know if this is like an update or what, but I think as you get older, things can sometimes get a little bit more intense. Like now when I'm stressed, I find that my appetite is just kind of gone. And I can like eat food, but I just feel like nothing tastes good. And when I was younger, it was kind of the opposite. Like I'd be stressed and I'd be like, oh my God, I want to eat like a cookie, you know? So it's just interesting how your body and your brain changes as you age. Another thing I struggle with a lot is like, I am grateful for so much in my life. And when I really think about it big picture, like my life is great. Financially, I'm stable. Work is great. I love what I do. You know, I have a roof over my head, like all of that stuff is taken care of and I have nothing to really complain about. And I think that's what makes it more difficult to deal with this. Like you kind of end up hating yourself because you feel like you're being a brat or being ungrateful but you also can't control it. And then you know it's not rational. So like you see, it's this loop and it's very frustrating. So you kind of keep it to yourself until it builds up and then something happens that sets you off, like a shoe inside the house and it's really stupid. But for reasons that people can't understand, it like really fucking sets you off, you know? Welcome to my brain, guys. I've also realized that a lot of it is low level stress. Even if you feel like your life hasn't been all that negatively impacted by COVID, it is a lot of added stress to suddenly constantly worry about your health or, I don't know, worry about getting sick all the time or wearing a mask and doing the right thing. Like it is a lot of stress just to have a life change, period. And so I think we're all kind of in that same boat a little bit. And so I guess if I have one tip for you, it's like allow yourself to feel anxious. A lot of us, I think, really jump to the part where we try to find a solution. But one thing that has been really helpful for me is because it's all mental to try and combat it in a way that's physical. So get some acupuncture, take a hot bath, take an ice cold shower. Like your body and mind are so connected, and when it's all feeling up here, try and do something that brings you back to like the rest of your being, you know? That's been helpful for me. This is a good question. Have you ever felt alone, like you have no friends? Yeah, I mean, I kind of did it to myself in some ways though. I have a very hard time connecting deeply with people and like managing friendships long-term because basically I feel like the more you get to know me, it's kind of embarrassing some of my issues and I just don't really want to talk about it unless I feel like you get it or I trust you. So yeah. Okay, I guess my tip would be try your best not to push your friends away. You could also explain to them that you have no updates on the current issues in your life and that certain topics are kind of off topic until you figure it out a little bit more. But being open about that I think is better than just completely ghosting, because basically that's what I did to a lot of my friends and I felt really bad. I feel like I missed out on a lot of like their life events and updates, and like they've gone through some shit too, you know? Mine was just very much like, oh, I'm stuck in my head and like this constant issue for me. And you know, some of my friends went through like really hard times and I wasn't really present or available for that. And like, that's okay too. You know, everyone needs to take their own time and space, but I think being open about it is really just the best policy, because then at least you can avoid the possibility of them thinking like, oh my God, they're mad at me, or, you know, they just don't want to be friends anymore. That's just really not the case. And I think another thing too that's really challenging for me is like, I did have a really good upbringing. I felt like my parents were very supportive. I didn't really have any reasons to be like depressed or have OCD or like stress or anxiety, but there's just like, I don't know, somehow it's just like my personality. Like when I was 5 even, my mom would never tell me where we were going if we ever went on a trip or went to see family, because I would do this thing where I would like pack a suitcase full of stuff and just always have it ready to go. Like, and I don't know why, I would just always want to be packing in advance, and just like, who does that when they're 5 years old? You know, it's just weird. Maybe I shouldn't say weird, but it's unusual. And I don't know, I guess that's just the type of person I've always been. I also feel very fortunate that despite my being Asian. My parents are pretty, I don't know, modern or Americanized. In some ways they're very Asian, but really not that much. Obviously my parents never went to therapy, but they're very on board with like me and my sisters going to therapy. They're very open to like, you know, obviously you guys know yoga and stuff like that I do, and me being vegan. So it's not like I can't talk with them about mental health stuff, but if I were to go back one generation to like my grandparents, probably would not understand as much. But I don't really experience that challenge as much. It's just that I think it shows up a lot in the way that like people from Asia that follow me will be like, wow, it's so interesting how you're just like so open about it. And like, I don't know, so many people go through it. I feel like it does no good to keep this stuff to yourself. So I would like to kind of get back to being more comfortable being open again. Now that you guys kind of know what's up, this is just like my general low level struggle or existential question in life right now. And that is just, why am I so anxious? Why has that increased? How can I not feel this way and also not get in my own way a lot and push people away? Still waiting on the answer. I'm going to show you how I do my lashes and curl them because this is a question that I get a lot. And then let's bring it back to like makeup for a second because this video is all over the place. I don't even know if I should upload this video. Like, it's just such a mess, but here's my best tip, okay? So with your lashes, especially if you have Asian lashes like I do, you probably have very straight, thick lashes. Sorry, I keep looking over here, by the way, it's like my viewfinder. But this is what I do. So I take the curler, and I've already done this once, but I'll start at the base. So as you normally would. And then I'll move my way up the lashes so that you don't end up with like a 90-degree angle. Like if you're looking from the side, you don't want your lashes to be like, you want them to be like a nice curl. So if this is my lash, I would curl up this way. Does that make sense? I shared a better tutorial in my last makeup video routine, but I still do the same thing, and I do get compliments on my lashes quite often. They're not the longest, they're not the thickest, but I do get them to stick straighter up, and it just like opens up your eyes a lot more and makes them more visible. BRB, let me do my mascara. So essentially this will be my day-to-day look. I don't always put on eyeliner, but I will today just to show you how I do it. I pretty much only focus on the outer corner and do like a little tail. And this is the Kat Von D tattoo liner. It is not a clean liner, but it's the most waterproof liner I found, and it's cruelty-free and vegan. So for me, it checks off most of the boxes. So I'd like to just do it at the very end here. And then I'll flick it up, and then I'll kind of attach it at the base. And that's sort of it. When I put liner on top, it kind of takes away from some of the lash showing, and I feel like it makes my eye look a little heavy, which is not what I want. I want them to be like open. So I don't know if you can see it, but same thing on the other side. A little flick at the end, and then I try to conjoin it at the bottom. So it's like a natural connection. Today is not gonna be a perfect eyeliner day, but this is the look essentially. We're gonna seal it off with the Milk Hydro Grip Setting Spray. I really like the spray. The mist is so fine and it feels really nice. Does it really help? I don't know, but I've been doing it a lot lately. All in all, that's my life update. This is my updated makeup routine. I'm still loving pretty much every single product that I got at Sephora from my last vlog. So if you missed that, I'll put that on the screen and I'll link it below. Lots of great clean beauty finds lately, and I'm really, really excited about that because now more than ever, clean beauty has just come a long way and is really effective, like just as good as traditional makeup, I feel. And I don't know, I know this video is gonna be all over the place. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to do this. You know, the last couple of times that I've struggled with my mental health on a really serious level, I was working a corporate job and I had to quit my job because of it, as you may or may not know. And so I think the beauty of this job is that I'm able to just be really open about what I'm going through, and I can work my schedule in a way that's a little bit more flexible. You know, I like to show up every single day. Just because I work for myself, that doesn't mean I like to give myself days off necessarily, but if I'm having a really bad Tuesday, I can take that day off and be like, this day is a fluke, I'm just gonna stop right here, and then I'll add maybe more time on a Sunday, or I'll work later into like a Wednesday night. And that has just allowed me so much space to prioritize my mental health a little bit more, because if I've learned anything from those experiences in my previous jobs, it's that I really need to stay on top of my mental health. Like jobs, responsibilities, none of that I'll be able to fulfill if my mental health is off. And so often I think we really downplay mental illness, but it's really just as debilitating, if not more sometimes, than physical diseases. It is a disease, you know? So I don't know, this video feels weird. I feel like there's no positive ending that I have to share necessarily. I just kind of wanted to bring you guys up to speed as far as where I am brain-wise and what's been going on in my life, because yeah, I feel distant. And the worst part would be that I would get comments sometimes being like, I feel like you're not mentally there, you're not present, you're not really sharing as much, I miss the life updates. And I hadn't even figured out what the update would be. So I feel a lot better. I feel like a weight has lifted a little bit. I hope that some of you will be able to relate to this video in some way, or maybe I hope not, because I hope you're not going through this shit too. But if you are, then I hope that this makes you feel a little bit less alone in your struggle, because yeah, you're really never alone in any struggles. And I guess I'll just leave you with this. Mental health is really so important, and I hope that you guys make time to take care of your mental health as much as you do your physical body. The mind is so powerful, and sometimes not in a great way. Be kind to your mind if you can, and you have access to therapy. I recommend it for everyone. You don't have to be messed up or have an issue to go to therapy. I think the best way I can think of to utilize therapy is to manage what's going on before it becomes a problem. And it can really just be so helpful. I would be happy to make another video, maybe just a rambly video. I don't know, sometimes I just talk so much that I feel like I should do a podcast or something, so I don't have to like worry about the video. I could just be like talking. But I'm gonna cut myself off because I know I'm gonna be talking way too much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will link all the makeup products in the description box below if you are interested. And I don't know, will this video come to light? I guess you'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Comment below if you have any other questions. I would love to do a mental health Q&A. If you're watching this, I love you.